Deep beneath the devastated streets of Berlin, hidden from the world, lay a fortress of concrete, steel, and fear. This was Hitler's secret bunker, a place where the final desperate days of the Nazi Empire unfolded and where the most infamous dictator in human history lived out his last moments. For decades, what happened inside was shrouded in mystery. Today, we peel back the layers of concrete and time to explore the truth, the myths, and the chilling events that took place inside the bunker no camera ever filmed. This is the untold story of Hitler's secret bunker. To protect himself from assassination and the looming threat of air raids, a clandestine project began beneath the Reich Chancellery in Berlin. This was the birth of the Four Bunker, a massive underground complex designed to be impenetrable. It wasn't just a single room. It was a sprawling two-level shelter buried 15 meters deep. Its walls, nearly 3 meters of reinforced concrete, were engineered to withstand direct bomb hits. It was built to hide the most powerful man in Germany when the entire world finally turned against him. Inside, life was a suffocating nightmare. The air was thick with the smell of damp concrete, stale cigarette smoke, and palpable fear. The rooms were small, cramped, and poorly lit, and the entire structure constantly vibrated from the Allied bombs exploding on the streets above. Hitler's personal quarters were stark, containing little more than a simple bed, a table, and a massive map of Europe that he would stare at for hours on end. His inner circle, Eva Braun, Propaganda Minister Goebbels and his family, secretaries and guards lived in claustrophobic adjacent rooms. Others would sit in silence, listening to the bombs, counting the seconds between each deafening explosion. One survivor later recalled, "It was a tune for the living. We knew we were buried before we were dead." By April of 1945, the end was undeniably near. The Soviet Red Army was just streets away, their artillery shaking the very foundations of the bunker every few minutes. Yet, Hitler refused to leave Berlin. Day after day, generals would bring him devastating reports. Berlin was completely surrounded. Armies had been annihilated, fuel was gone, and all hope was lost. In fits of rage, Hitler would slam his fist on the table, shouting orders to divisions that no longer existed. One officer later wrote in his diary, he was commanding ghosts. The war was already over, only he refused to accept it. As the world above burned, the bunker drew closer to its final grim chapter. Hitler rarely ventured outside. He paced the narrow hallways, his body shaking uncontrollably from what many now believe was Parkinson's disease. A man both mentally and physically broken. On April 29th, in a bizarre and macabre ceremony, he married his longtime companion, Eva Braun. The wedding was held in a map room barely larger than a closet, a desperate act of normalcy in a world of absolute chaos. Just hours later, he dictated his final political testament, a document filled with hatred and blame for everyone except himself. By April 30th, the Soviets were just a few hundred meters from the Chancellery Garden. Hitler said his farewells and retreated into his private room with Eva Braun. A few moments later, a single muffled gunshot echoed through the hallway. Following his last orders, Hitler's remaining staff carried the bodies of Hitler and Eva Braun up to the Chancellery Garden. They doused them in gasoline and set them ablaze, but the constant Soviet shelling made a proper burial impossible. When Soviet soldiers finally stormed the bunker days later, they discovered a scene of utter chaos. Abandoned maps, burned documents, scattered personal belongings, and empty liquor bottles. It was a world of madness, frozen in time. For decades after the war, the bunker was partially blown up, sealed, and buried under rubble. Today, the site is nothing more than an unremarkable parking lot. There's no monument, no grand memorial. Just a small, discreet information board marking the spot where dictatorship drew its final breath. Even after all these years, mysteries and conspiracy theories continue to swirl around the bunker. Did Hitler truly die there? The answer from historians is an unequivocal yes. Overwhelming historical, eyewitness, and forensic evidence, including dental records, confirm his death. Were there secret escape tunnels? While some service tunnels did connect to other buildings, none provided an escape route from a city completely encircled by the enemy. What about hidden Nazi gold, secret documents, or priceless art? Most valuables were either moved, looted, or destroyed in the final chaotic days. While treasure hunters and conspiracy theorists still dream of finding a hidden chamber, the consensus is clear: the bunker was not a fortress of escape. It was the final prison of a collapsing tyrant. Hitler's secret bunker was more than just a structure of concrete and steel. It was a symbol of paranoia, of absolute control, and ultimately, of the spectacular failure of a regime built on hatred and destruction. Within those cold, damp walls, the final bloody chapter of World War II in Europe was written. A chapter that ended not in a blaze of glory, but in a squalid, self-inflicted downfall. The bunker itself has vanished from sight, but the history it holds, and the lessons it teaches, will echo forever. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the past. If you found this story compelling, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more deep dives into history's most fascinating moments. We'll see you next time.